78 to 84 degrees. That is really the perfect temperature for our wild yeast friends to thrive during bulk fermentation. However, not many of us intentionally keep our homes that warm. And if you're someone like me who lives in a cold climate, maintaining the bulk fermentation temperature can be a real challenge to overcome, almost year round. But I have a simple trick that uses something you already have in your kitchen. No special tools or equipment required, and it's a complete game changer for your sourdough during bulk fermentation. Let me tell you about it. If you've ever tried making sourdough in a chilly house, you know the struggle. Keeping the dough around that perfect 78 to 84 degrees during bulk fermentation can seem like an uphill battle because your dough is constantly trying to cool to room temperature. When you're making bread, that can be a problem for home bakers because sourdough is a long process, and the colder your dough is, the longer it will take during bulk fermentation. And it's important to be able to fit bread making into your busy schedule and not the other way around. When I first started my bread making journey in 2019, I would get super frustrated with my inconsistent results. It seemed like bulk fermentation times were so random, and no matter when I pulled it, it never turned out right at the end. It wasn't until I started actually using my food thermometer to take the temperature of my dough that I found the problem. My dough was too cold, and it was causing a major delay in fermentation. Let's just quickly talk about my process. When I'm making bread, I use a technique called autolyse, and this is where you mix flour and water and let it sit before adding your sourdough starter and salt. Without diving too deep into the science of it, autolyse helps by activating enzymes that break down starches into sugars and soften the gluten structure in the flour. This makes the dough easier to handle and enhances the final texture of your bread. But here's the kicker. The temperature of the water you use can drastically affect your dough's temperature. Now, hot tap water. Yes, you heard that right. By using the hottest water your tap can safely provide for the autolyse stage, you can give your dough a much needed thermal boost. For me, that's 115 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the highest my hot water heater will allow. During a typical autolyse, you're letting your dough sit mixed for roughly an hour before adding the starter. And so by the time your autolyse is over, your dough is going to have cooled enough where you can safely add in your starter without killing those beneficial bacteria with the heat. Usually after about an hour, my dough is sitting around 90 to 92 degrees Fahrenheit. And by the time I add in my starter and salt and spend time mixing, it's dropped to the high 80s and very slowly climbs down until the end of my bulk fermentation. How does this work? The flour will absorb the heat and raise the dough's overall temperature. And this retained heat, depending upon the temperature of your house, can last for hours into bulk fermentation, giving your dough a warmer environment to rise beautifully, even in a cold kitchen and without any special tools or equipment. Now, if you don't have a cold house and your house is sitting around 78 to 82 degrees room temperature, I would not use this technique. Your house is sitting in the Goldilocks zone. You're very lucky. I would also not go over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Much higher than that is a temperature that your flour begins to scald, which can affect the gluten and enzyme activity. And it's also important not to use this method with your sourdough starter. If you live in a cold climate, you just have to embrace the fact that your starter's life cycle may be slower than wanted. And it's important to understand that life cycle and feed your starter with so that it matches up with the start time of your dough day in mind. Before trying this, I would strongly encourage you to use a food thermometer and experiment by taking the temperature of your dough at various points in time without the hot water autolyse. Once you understand what normal is, then try this hot water method and take the temperature of the dough after the initial mix, after an hour of the autolyse, and then at various points during the bulk fermentation stage. It's also important to make sure that your mixing bowl is covered and in a place that can help retain that heat. I like to leave my mixing bowl on top of my oven or sometimes even inside my oven with the oven off, of course. And time and temperature really are the two most important factors when making sourdough bread. And sometimes the simplest solutions can make the biggest differences in our baking adventures. By using hot water during our autolyse phase, we can effectively manage dough temp and overcome challenges of our cold kitchens. And so I really hope that this tip will help you overcome your cold house. If you like this content, please give me a thumbs up or subscribe. It really helps my small channel out a lot. And if you have any questions or tips to share with the rest of the home baking community, please leave a comment below. And of course, remember to be safe and use caution when dealing with hot water. Thanks for watching, everyone. Happy baking.